Hello everybody, this is Niclas Huschenbeth and welcome to another game analysis from the World Cup. This time from round number 2, and I was facing the Russian top grandmaster Nikita Vitiugov, rated 2732 and number 25 in the world. So if you haven't watched my first round match against Arkadij Naiditsch, the format is as follows: 2 games, and the winner proceeds into the next round. The loser has to go home. If it's still tied after 1-1, so if the match is tied after 2 games, then a tiebreak is played. So in the first game I was playing with the white pieces, and I started as usual with 1e4, and Vitiugov replied with e5, which makes sense because he's a very solid player. He actually has the nickname the Iceman. So we're going down this Royal Lopez, and now bishop e7, and here I decided in my preparation that I'm going to surprise him a little bit with a sideline. d3, which is not the main move. Main move is rook e1. d3, b5, bishop b3, d6, and here I have played a3 in the past, but well, this is not too challenging, I think. And I chose this move, bishop d2, which is kind of recent and has been played by some strong grandmasters, for example, Vladimir Fedoseev. And the idea is to stop the positional threat of knight a5, exchanging this light squared bishop. And also pointing out that this knight is somewhat misplaced, as it usually is in the Royal Lopez, and cannot go to the usual square a5, so it has to find another route in the future. Now castle h3, stopping any kind of bishop g4 business. Bishop b7 makes a lot of sense, developing the bishop in this way. Rook e1, queen d7 is also very natural. This was actually the main line in my preparation, and Vitiugov is following it here, now regrouping the knight to e6, which is a very sensible maneuver. Like I said, the knight is not well placed on c6 because, for one, it's blocking the bishop and it's also blocking the pawn, so black wants to get better access to the center, and this is why he regroups the knight to e6. Here there's an interesting idea that I had prepared with c4, quite unusual in the Royal Lopez to see this kind of move, but the point is that white wants to get a better grip on the center. Now knight e6, knight c3, developing my last minor piece. And here black pretty much has a choice whether he wants to play c6 and keep the structure somewhat fluid, or, like Vitiugov did, play c5 to get a good grip on the center himself, but on the other hand also weakening some squares, especially the square on d5. Now I played rook b1, which looks a bit odd, but was still part of my preparation. The idea is to play bishop a2 and b4 next. Bishop c6 and bishop a2. And now Vitiugov took on c4. If he doesn't take on c4, I will just go b4 next. And white is a bit more comfortable because his pieces are somewhat better placed in this very symmetrical position. Now b takes c4, bishop takes c4, and once again I'm threatening to play b4, so black went a5. And this was the first time I had to think for a little bit what I'm going to do next. The computer actually likes the direct b4, which I did not even consider, because, well, I was thinking that this position is too symmetrical, not enough pawns left, should be very close to equal. But according to the computer, white has some chances here, because once again the minor pieces are better placed for white. If d5 in this position, then white can take on e5, and this is not going to end well. It's just too much hanging here. Bishop takes b4, d takes e6. This will end very badly for black. I think my move also makes a lot of sense. b3, stopping potentially a4, fixing my pawns here. And now Vitiugov played very quickly knight e8, which came as a shocker to me. This move I did not expect at all. And it leaves this d5 square even more vulnerable, less protected. So I pretty quickly played knight d5, which is very decent, I think. I could have also played b4 again right away. And after a takes b4, a takes b4, c takes b4, rook takes b4, it's an even better version, I think, than the one we just saw. If knight f6 now, then still the knight is coming to d5. Black doesn't really want to take this knight. If he takes with the knight, then there's an immediate fork. And if he takes with the bishop, then after knight c5, let's say, white can follow up with bishop b5, bishop c6. This looks very attractive. Or maybe also play a move like d4. And white has some advantage here, for sure. So possibly black should go bishop d8. And now it could continue with knight d5, bishop a5, rook b2. The bishops are traded, but in all these lines, white keeps some pressure. And black has to defend. It's not so comfortable for black. So in the game, like I said, I played quickly knight d5 because I thought, well, this looks very strange with black's pieces here on the back rank, kind of misplaced. And here I thought for a super long time, I think 45 minutes, way too long for sure. I was just not sure, should I go for b4 or shouldn't I? My gut feeling was telling me, yes, this is the move. And my gut feeling was right. The point is, well, black's pieces are uncoordinated. And this is the exact moment I want to use to open the position. My intuition was right, but I followed it up in the wrong way. I want to open up the position even more. But this is not giving white anything. Here the move d4 is a mistake. I should take back. Rook takes b4 we already saw a moment ago. Now bishop a5. And then the rook retreats. The bishops are traded. But white keeps pressure for sure. Or also another recapture is possible. Bishop takes b4 is possible. Knight takes b4 is possible. And in all these lines, white keeps the initiative and black has to solve some problems. Obviously, white shouldn't run any risks here in the symmetrical structure. So this would have been a very nice way to play. And obviously you cannot hope for much more out of the opening against such a top level player. So here, let's say bishop a4, queen e2, white has some pressure and black has to defend. Unfortunately, however, I spent a lot of time and then made the wrong decision here to continue with d4. And now the white advantage is gone. E takes d4, bishop takes b4, and black has to get his pieces back into the game very quickly, otherwise I take on d4 and I'm much better, but he's just in time here with knight f6. And now I played somewhat a curious move, queen d2. The problem is if I take back on d4, and this is what I was calculating for a long time, then black takes on d5 with the bishop and that equalizes on the spot for him. Other moves, then white would have an advantage. Let's say knight takes d4, queen takes d4, and now if bishop takes d5, bishop takes d5, knight takes d5, queen takes d5, e5 is in the air, this one is hanging, this one is hanging, white is winning at least a pawn. So bishop takes d5 is the problem, and I calculated the different moves here, but it was all not satisfactory. E takes d5, knight takes d4, queen takes, bishop a5, trades the bishops, splits the bishop pair by white, just equalizing easily. And if bishop takes d5, now important of course that black takes this one first, because the rook is hanging, so knight takes d4 would not be a good idea in any case, so knight takes d5. And here I was checking e takes d5 and knight takes e6. But knight takes e6, f takes e6, this is also just completely fine for black. Bishop is coming to b6, counterplay against f2, maybe even more comfortable for black already. And if I take back here on d5, knight takes d4, queen takes d4, it's just not enough potential in this position. Bishop can go to f6, or the bishops can be traded potentially, is also just equal. So I played the move queen d2, and my kind of argument is that black does not have any good way to release the tension right now. But on the other hand, I also don't really have a threat. So my opponent just played h6, which is completely fine. If now black was to take on d5, I would take with the pawn, and here black cannot trade the knight. This is the idea. So if knight c5 now, then well, the computer is saying queen f4, but also just knight takes d4, getting this square, bishop b5. This is much better for white. But h6, and now the question is once again, what am I doing? So I settled on knight takes f6, bishop takes f6, and now e5. Interesting idea. Another idea was to go bishop takes e6, and here f takes e6, knight takes d4. This is also very much equal. Maybe better try objectively to do something, but it's also equal, no doubt. So e5, and now we see, by the way, why it was necessary to play queen d2, because with the queen on d1, black could take on f3 with tempo and then just take on e5. Now bishop takes f3 would be not a good idea, because I take on f6 and I'm opening up the black king, and this is quite bad for black. So Vitiugov reacted in the right way, took this pawn. If bishop e7, then knight takes d4 would be promising for white. Knight takes d4, queen takes d4, this pawn is pinned, black cannot take on e5 because the bishop would be hanging here. And if d5, then simply take, and now bishop b3, and white definitely has an edge here because this pawn is weak and the white pieces are better placed. But d takes e5, unfortunately for me, works just fine, because after bishop takes f8, which is certainly the first move you consider, black doesn't take back, but takes on f3. And now black is actually the one who's better here. Bishop takes e6, queen takes, g takes f3. Black has two pawns for the exchange, and my king pawns, the pawns in front of the king, are weakened, so this is no winning attempt whatsoever. In fact, I made a mistake here. I took on e5. It's better to play bishop takes e6. Now, one point is black cannot take with the queen because of knight takes d4, exploiting this pin along the e-file, and then in the end white will pick up the exchange, and this is much better for white, of course. So f takes e6, now taking on f8. Black shouldn't take back on f8 because knight takes e5 is quite uncomfortable, immediately splitting the bishop pair. So bishop takes f3, and here I should now take back and play this position, but I cannot really believe that white has any serious winning chances. However, that was the best continuation, because in the game I could have been worse. Knight takes e5, bishop takes e5, bishop takes f8. So this is my idea. I want to reverse the order so black doesn't have this intermediate move bishop takes f3, but unfortunately black has other intermediate moves here. So what do you think should black play in this position? Pause the video here and then continue when you're ready. If you settled on bishop f4, you get a Vitiugov point. This is what my opponent played. But bishop c7 was much stronger and actually even gives black an advantage. Or rather, I should maybe say, white has to be very accurate now to not be worse, because I found a way to keep the balance here. My intention during the game was to take on e6 and then to play the bishop back to b4. But here, black can immediately follow up with queen d5, threatening checkmate, and then rook a2, and I did not see this. Even this doesn't look too bad, rook b2, but now bishop f4. So a number of forced moves, and black is taking the initiative. Here, white should sacrifice the queen actually after queen f2, bishop e3. Now give the queen, and I think white should hold this position, but black can certainly try. Black is a bit better here. So this would be one option. The other option would be to retreat immediately to b4, and after the game Vitiugov told me this was the reason why he did not play this. But here black can also exert a lot of pressure. Knight f4, queen f5, threatening all kinds of sacrifices. And the only move to maintain the balance here is rook bc1 to have some ideas myself on the c-file. And now one line could continue. Knight takes h3, bishop takes f3, looks super scary, but with accurate defense white is holding here. Rook takes c7, black is regaining the rook. White is still up a piece, but you can see black has a lot of pawns. Queen takes d4, only move, queen back, bishop takes f7. The bishop cannot be taken because queen c4 check, and it's actually the black king who will be in a mating net. Or if the king goes to g6, white just picks up this bishop. And the black king is still in a lot of trouble. So black should go king h8, and now queen d2, once again only move, and this position is equal. So you can see that this move bishop c7 could have posed a lot of problems, and I would have needed to defend accurately. In the game, however, after bishop f4, the game continued with bishop takes e6, bishop takes d2, bishop takes d7, bishop takes d7, rook d1. I have to move my attacked rook. So rook d1, bishop c3. And when I saw this position from afar, I thought I have some chances in the endgame. But then when it came to this position, it was on the board, I just realized it's absolutely nothing, because my pieces are not well placed right now, and I'm not able to exchange a bishop or to get rid of this pawn. So I said, all right, well, let's just force a draw here. Bishop c5, bishop f5, and now bishop takes d4. I said, I'm just going to force a draw. This first looks like a blunder, but the idea is after bishop takes d4, white has to counterattack rook b5. And black has numerous ways to make a draw. But rook d8 would make it kind of difficult. Which cute try does white have in this position? Once again, feel free to stop the video. So the idea would be rook takes f5, bishop takes f2, gets black an endgame with a pawn up, which is also a draw, but he would be the one on the good side. However, white has the very nice move king h1 here, stepping out of this bishop takes f2 idea. And the idea is, if let's say bishop e6, then rook b4 picks up the bishop because of the bishop f6, trade, rook b8, the bishop will be lost, and this position would be indeed winning for white. However, even here, black could still defend with the only move, I think, bishop takes h3, picking up another pawn, and then this would be a draw, king h7, avoiding the spin and trading rooks, and it's a draw. Anyway, Vitiugov saw all of that as well and said, okay, I'll just take the rook on b1, and here I offered a draw because obviously the position is completely equal, almost completely symmetrical. Well, pawn structure is symmetrical in fact. So the first game ended in a draw. As you could see, my preparation worked out perfectly. I got an advantage out of the opening, and there was this critical moment after knight e8 where I thought for a very long time, but ultimately chose the wrong plan. First did it right with b4, opening a position against black's uncoordinated pieces, but then opened too much. It got too much simplified, and at one point I could have been even worse. So in the end, the draw seemed like a natural result. So in the next game, I will play with the black pieces, and we'll cover this in the next video. Until then, let me know your thoughts, let me know your comments, questions, all below in the comment section, and then I see you in the next one. Until then.